minute or two after 4, so we should get started. We see some new faces, and we're so happy to have you here. So please have extended welcome to our church here, Richland Center Seventh-day Adventist Church, to the Creation Health Lifestyle Program. It is a faith-based program based on a unique whole person wellness lifestyle. And last weekend we had Dr. Samuel. He talked on the first letter of creation, which stands for choice. And if anybody remembers what those letters are, we can say them together. Creation is an acronym. They're initials that stand for, the first letter is choice, the second letter is rest, which we'll be learning about today. E stands for environment, A stands for activity, T stands for trust, I for interpersonal relationships, O stands for outlook, N for nutrition, and then we hope at the end of our program to have a very nice dinner for you. So today our speaker will be Dr. Samuel Garbi, and he is going to talk to us about rest. And I have a couple proverbs to share with you. He that would be healthy must eat temperately and sup early. That's a Spanish proverb.
That's funny.
Is that a good one? Do you recognize that one?
I couldn't help myself. It's just that the Spaniards, they eat very late. Traditionally in Spain, they eat like around their meal like around 10 o'clock at night.
Really?
Late. Yeah. So that, I thought that was funny. I'm sorry.
Maybe they kind of thought that was a little late and they decided to save it. Okay, so then study sickness while you are well. That's anonymous. They don't have not claiming credit for that from anyone. And then here's another Spanish proverb. Connie, tell us if this is right. 3 things kill a man: a scorching sun, suppers, and cares. Does that sound right?
Cares? That sounds right.
Okay, and as I said, we're on our second topic of rest. If you missed last week, we talked on choice, and Dr. Sinnott is here, and maybe if you have any questions about what you missed last week, maybe you can share a few words. In your tote, if you got a tote today, is the recipe that he shared with us last week for granola, and it was very tasty.
No,
So,
I'll look at them.
so without further delay, Dr. Samuel Garbi.
Hey, well, good evening, and welcome once again. Thank you, Lee-Song, for introducing me. I will be dependent on showing you some slides, and the notes are attached to the slides, and so they put a little table here for demonstration a little later, but I'll use it for sitting down and being close to the computer if you don't mind, and I'll try to keep some eye contact. At the same time, I'll have to just mess with technology a little bit. And so that's, and it works, you see. So these are the 8 sessions that Lee-Song referred to with the acronyms. And we are now at the second presentation, which is on rest. And today we'll have a little bit of a look at both physical rest, mental rest, spiritual rest, all of these, so that we can live a full life, because rest is a critical part of living well. You may have a good lifestyle with activity and a healthy diet, but if you don't have adequate rest, all of these are foiled, and it's more difficult to maintain long health. It's what makes us able to function at our best, to be able to rest an adequate amount of time. That's what Lee-Song was saying, that it's a faith-based creation. Actually may be understood differently by different people, but in our Judeo-Christian tradition, right from the beginning, God creates, and then after this, He rests, and that's part of the cycle of 7 days. That's our human life cycle. And if you go around the world, you will find that there's, not just in the Middle East and in Europe, but around the world, there's a cycle of 7 days in which people take 1 day off for rest. It's found in the languages from all continents. So that's something that is important as part of our life, especially in our context, because we live in America. We're proud to have the best economy in the world, still, or to have a country that's just foremost. But we are in a bottom line culture in which is 24/7. If you forgot to buy the shoes for your son's presentation tomorrow at 8 o'clock at the school and it's midnight, you can still go to Walmart and it's open. But non-stop rest is not something, non-stop rest is not good, but non-stop work is not good either. And so we need to consider sleep as something that's important. Okay, so physical, mental, and spiritual rest are three of the aspects that I would like to propose to you looking at tonight. But before I do that, can somebody tell me what time it is? Well, I don't know if you noticed that there are some things that are on the tables there. And I'm standing up because I want to be able to see them. And here there's also something. Can you see what that is here? It is bread. And this dough has been resting, and that's the most important part, maybe, of making bread. I try to just stick that dough into the oven without having it allowed it to have time to rest. There'll be a piece of brick. So here, this one is getting close to the right level. Maybe a little more, you think? The oven is at 350, and I was wondering if I could have 3 people in the kitchen to bring this into the oven and stick it in. Would that be, have 3 volunteers for that? You see, it's right on time. I had put an alarm. This bread has been a joint effort. Pat helped out to make it, to knead it, Tom helped out. And then it was divided up by Dr. Samuel, myself, I put it in there. And so now this is going to bake for 30 minutes while we study about rest. But I thought it was a good illustration of the fact that rest is a very important part of life, human life, as well as other aspects of life, including bread making and baking. So I'm going to put that here on the side. And by the way, I'll explain later how I made it. I have the ingredients over there and the stuff over there. Yesterday I made lots of bread. And so at the end, if you want to take some home, you'll be able to just come here and grab one of them. And what I suggest is that you put it in the oven a little bit first, or put it in the toaster, so that will improve the bread as well. Anyway, so things are going smooth over there. I'm going to put my alarm clock for 30 minutes. Okay, so it'll be 4 and then 40. Welcome. Okay. Okay, very good. What's that? Yeah, if you could go and see, make sure that the thing works at,
Which thing works?
oh, the oven.
Oven's working?
You can put the light on. Basically, I think they've done everything that's needed. It's just to put
It's
that
on a
thing there.
timer, right?
It's on the timer, so that should work good. Okay, so let's go back to and we'll of course start with physical rest, which is sleep. And according to, there's lots of research in this presentation. It's all scientific research and recent research over the past. Well, some of it is more recent than other, but 30 to 40% of people sleep less than 6 hours a night in the West, according to a study. And getting adequate amounts of early sleep is especially important, according to our doctors. We all know that 7 to 8 hours of sleep is best for adults, and there's a study that was made in California, Alameda County study, which has shown that there's a higher risk of heart disease, cancer, stroke, and those who sleep 7 hours to 8 hours per night have a much lower risk of having those diseases. You can read what the studies here. Timothy Monk is a sleep expert from the University of Pittsburgh, and that's what he wrote. There's another doctor, Roseanne Armitage, who's a sleep expert at the University of Michigan, that has highlighted the relationship between sleep patterns that are out of sync with daily cycle and depression. So now there's a few slides that I didn't create, of course, none of that is created by me, but on early sleep, how important it is to have early sleep. See, and I'll let you read some of the slides without necessarily repeating everything that's on them. 2 studies conducted by the same researcher, Dr. Michael Irwin. The first one is at the Department of Psychiatry at the University of California, and the other one at San Diego Veteran Affairs Medical Center. And that shows that early sleep versus late sleep affects the immune function. So you consider how getting 3 hours of sleep before midnight could be of an even greater benefit than to have just adequate sleep after midnight. That's for students. I have a student in my house who's very intent on having 2 actually, that are very intent on having good grades. Well, numerous studies, notably by Wolfson of Arkansas and a certain other doctor called Karskadon from Massachusetts. A 1998 study on a sample of 3,000 students aged between grades 9 and 12. Other studies of involving medical students, and all of these results associated with early sleep rather than late sleep. There's a big study, a sleep poll that took place in 2005. Yes, it's about 10 years. And people were asked to define their sleep habits. And the healthiest of all the groups was those that went to bed early, got to bed early, and got up early as well. And they are called the lively larks, about 27% of the population. And they were the ones that were the least affected by all these bad things. Either their own sleep problem or their spouse or partner sleep problems. The largest group, 59%, describe themselves basically as being late for sleeping, all these things, not sleeping enough. They were called in the study the night owls, and the foundation classified this group as a sleepless and missing the kissing. 2 out of 5 report that sleepiness has severely affected their intimate relationships. So the benefits of getting to bed early, whether it's for students, for couples, whether it's for all of what has been mentioned so far, especially because the portion of the sleep that's most beneficial for to restore our strength occur in stages of sleep that are called stage 3 and 4 of non-rapid eye movement, and they occur early in the sleep, and as the night progresses, they diminish. So you don't get as much of this when you sleep late. Something else regarding going to bed early and sleeping early. The sleeping time affects the production of hormones that are very important for sleeping and for health. Melatonin, I think that everybody has heard that melatonin induces sleep. It synchronizes circadian and circannual rhythms, the rhythms that we have for the day according to daylight and nighttime. It's important for a number of things to have, because melatonin is produced especially early in the night and not later. Helps to fight certain types of cancer, lung cancer, breast and liver cancer, so on and so forth. So melatonin levels are highest during the normal hours of sleep, increasing rapidly in the evening, peaking just after midnight, and decreasing toward morning. That's why early sleep is better than later sleep. Something else, light pollution at night suppresses melatonin release. So going to bed and limiting your exposure to light at night is very beneficial. That's supported by 2 studies. One of them is was done in the 90s in Finland. 11,000 visually impaired Finnish women were studied. And then the second study, also around the same time, is the Nurses' Health Study, which included over 100,000 nurses. And then it's been also discussed at the International Agency for Research on Cancer in 2007. And what has been found is that light pollution at night suppresses melatonin, and that shift work has a grave impact on health. And some of us have to work 3rd shift and these kind of things, but ideally we're not meant for this. Two other hormones that are affected by sleep. Restricting sleep boosts the production of a hormone that triggers hunger, so we want to eat more. And when we don't sleep enough, leptin is suppressed, which triggers fullness. So that causes weight gain and obesity. Obesity in the United States is on the rise. I need to speak louder. And if you're wondering, I see some of you are smiling sometimes. My accent is French. And I speak 5 languages. How many of you speak 2 languages? 3, 4, 5. Okay. So when you speak more than one language, usually there's some of those funny things that happen every so often. So now, hormone for growth. The human growth hormone. Have you heard of that? It's useful for children to grow, but it's also helpful for adults to restore our tissues. The largest and most predictable of growth hormone peak 1 hour after you begin to sleep, and it takes place more in the early hours of the night and diminishes as morning approaches. So, this relationship demonstrates that the importance of falling asleep as early as possible in the evening when it gets dark maximizes the secretion of the growth hormone, which is helpful for everybody, both for those who grow and for those who are adults but need to have their cells restored. So I'm going to wrap up this section on the benefits of getting to bed early. As Dr. Monk from Pennsylvania stated, all humans are hardwired to go to sleep when it gets dark. However, some humans develop different sleeping patterns, like the Spanish that Connie was referring to, having their supper at 10 o'clock up to 4 o'clock in the morning. Some develop different sleeping patterns because of environmental circumstances, habits, and that turns into conditioned responses, and that becomes very ingrained in our lives. It's difficult to change, but we can go back. Matter of fact, I sent to some of you a picture of somebody who said that just 1 week of camping outside without electronics can restore your melatonin rhythms to be in sync with what the Creator intended. Okay, I'm going to go quickly on the tips on how to shift your schedule. You can look at this. Basically, is evaluate, take the time to stop and look at your life, and then move gradually. Don't do everything, just don't try to just go to bed 2 hours earlier than you usually do, or to wake up, same thing. Something has to do with inadequate sleep. It's not just the length, but and these are cellular hormones, cytokines. I don't know if that's the proper word. Cytokines? Is that what it is? Cytokines? How do you say that, Pat?
I would say cytokines.
Cytokines? So these are hormones that help the immune system to fight various infections. And they are produced, guess when? When you sleep. There's been a research in Germany. Hepatitis A vaccine was given to healthy adults. Half the group was allowed to sleep normally. The other one were asked to stay up for 36 hours following the vaccine. Everyone slept normally after this. 4 weeks later, the group that slept had twice the increase in immune system antibodies as the others, which shows that one night of missed sleep can compromise the immune system for up to 4 weeks. Chronic sleep loss can hasten and increase the onset of diabetes, heart disease, and basically obesity. Research at the University of Chicago, right next to us, have shown that when people sleep just 4 hours a night, a lot of things go haywire. Regarding diabetes, 2 studies. Healthy young men slept only 4 hours at night for 6 nights in a row, and then their insulin and blood sugar levels mimic those of people developing diabetes, just by lack of sleep. Women who slept less than 7 hours a night were more likely to develop diabetes than those who slept between 7 and 8 hours a night. Regarding heart diseases, when the production of adrenaline, cortisol, and other stress hormones increases during the day because you haven't slept enough, so you're more stressed out, blood pressure does not adequately dip during the night because there's been too many of these hormones during the day, and that increases the risk of heart disease. Why? Because pressure is not allowed to rest during the night because there's been too much. So it's a vicious circle. And then finally, obesity is one of the 3 that I mentioned are affected by inadequate sleep. I think we might be doing a little better, but over the past many years, the percentage of people getting less than 6 hours of sleep in the past few years has increased to the point where there's lots of people that have that are obese in our country. And in the study that's shown here, the body mass index was up as sleep duration was down. The less people slept, the more they had a higher body mass index. And there's 2 studies at least that I can refer to. The nurses' health study that I mentioned earlier. Many women over many years, those who slept 5 hours a night were 32 more likely to gain 30 pounds during adulthood than those getting 7 hours of sleep. And there's a number of studies, especially for teenagers and toddlers as well as infants. Those who slept less than 12 hours a day as infants were more likely to become obese by the age of 7. So early habits have a long-lasting impact. We've looked at the impact of sleep and early sleep and adequate sleep on physical health with diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. But it's the mind as well that's being affected. You can read on the slide. And in school children, sleep restriction seems to be a factor in increased attention problems. There's a direct link between inadequate sleeping habits and the acquisition and the propagation of attention disorders. The next generation. Okay, what's the next slide that they are presenting us here? Well, the sleep deprivation study is a large study that's taken place on sleep deprivation. And at the end of that study, 48 people who were restricted to sleeping only 4 to 6 hours a night for 14 days reported, "Oh, I'm so tired." No, they didn't. What did they report after having gotten the habit for 14 days to not sleep enough? They said, "I'm fine." They were completely unaware that they were sleep deprived. And mine is, despite having multiple impairments equivalent to 2 nights of total sleep deprivation. And they experience all of these things here, which are important when you are operating machinery, driving, or just leading a regular life. Most people are aware of the hazards of drunk driving, but driving while sleepy is just as dangerous, isn't it? It's part of why we're scared to just give our car keys to our kids, I suppose. Okay, and sometimes, before you will drive for a long trip, what do you do the night before? Prepare your suitcases, so on and so forth, and that can take several nights to repay, not just one. Well, how to get the most benefits from your sleep. Here are some of the tips that you can, things that are not directly related to sleep, but they can help you to adjust yourself to the lifestyle that we are made to follow in the order of creation, if you want to call it this way. Here it is, the eat a light supper earlier that made you laugh earlier. Here it is, physical activity regularly. Stanford University School of Medicine studied a group of 50 to 75 years old with sleep problems, and they found out that physical activity for 30 minutes, 4 times a week, helped people to sleep better at the right time. And it's best to finish your last meal, a light meal, about 3 hours before you go to sleep. And regularity is important. Look at what it says here, number 5. Maintain regular sleep-wake times wherever possible, whenever possible, even on the weekends. You know, oh, Saturday night. No. Sleeping no more than 30 minutes beyond normal rising times on the weekend. Better to have a little nap, 10 to 15 minutes, than to just go to bed at 1 o'clock in the night because it's Saturday night and sleep until 12. And all of these things, this is the factual data that is presented to us by studies, scientific studies, and so on and so forth. As we were told last week, it's your choice. It affects others, perhaps, but it's your choice. Relax before bedtime, about 20 minutes before going to bed. I know there's many ways to relax. Well, in the old time, and with the Amish today, the entertainment used to be, quiet time with your spouse while the kids were sleeping. Number 8, get rid of too many stimulants. Oh, that's something that we have some legal drugs in America. Caffeine is one of them. Nicotine, even when it's outside. All of these nicotine, people that smoke usually wake up early because they're in nicotine withdrawal. Alcohol, oh yeah, that's a little glass of wine before sleeping. Yeah, it makes you sleep. But what it does is that it takes away from your ability to have the deep sleep, and so you wake up once the nightcap is off. And there's many prescriptions and over-the-counter medicines that are also not helpful to sleeping. Maintain a what? Dark room. Your little phones that just turn up every so often, TVs, Cornell University researcher James B. Moss has said and studied that turning or dimming the lights in your home 20 to 30 minutes before nighttime. In other words, not following the creators turning off the lights when it's night. That creates a sleeping environment that's better for you. Maintain a quiet room. All the noises. And cool temperature. Doesn't mean to be cold though, huh? But to have just a little crack, even in the middle of winter, to have a little crack in your window so that there's fresh air coming in and out, that's helpful. You have lower temperature. You can have lots of blankets so you can warm, but you breathe fresh air, and that's better. Then use your bed only for sleep and intimacy. If you pay your bills in bed or whatever place you sleep, watch TV, work, do other activities from where you sleep, well, then lying in bed might be for some people associated with sleeplessness. Okay, I'm looking at my watch and I can see that very soon. Can you smell something?
You have about 10 minutes left.
Wow. Well, we have to go further than I thought. How are you doing so far? What's your experience with sleeping early? How many go to sleep early? How many of you sleeps 7 hours or more per night? Good for you. So tonight you're spending a few minutes to evaluate this and see after this what you could do in gradual steps to change that if you need. So now I want to go to of course, that quote by Benjamin Franklin, Early to bed, and that's the one that was not read today. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man and a woman healthy, wealthy, and wise. It's not to say that there's not exceptions. There's people that just sleep, during the day and are up the whole night, and they are wealthier than you are, than I am. But that's the rule. There's some people that smoke pipe their whole life and leave when they're 110 years old, and there's no problem. But as a whole, that's the truth. So now we go to mental rest. And what do you do to, basically here, for mental rest, you need to have a change of activity. Includes daily, weekly, and annual relaxation, recreation, and meditation. What do you like to do to relax daily? Now here again, there are some better ways of relaxing and some not so. There's some kids come back from school and they'll be spending 5 hours trying to play some games on a screen, but that's not going to help you much for health. Yeah.
I sit all day for my job, so I go to work out to relax because it helps me de-stress. Kind of. Not necessarily relaxing, but it's a change of pace.
Mm-hmm. And in your family, I heard of people who like to, what's the name of the dog, Mishka? Or is it my dog?
Shasta.
What?
Our dog?
Yeah.
Shasta.
Shasta. Yeah, taking her out. That's something that they tell me I need to do more in my house. I said, yeah, sure, that would be a great idea. So, now the power nap, that's something that you take in the afternoon, early afternoon, 10 to 15 minutes. And they say it's very good for the heart, actually, to have a little pause like this in the middle of the day. It helps with memory, helps with our body. And Dr. David Neubauer says that unless you know the correct way to conduct a daytime snooze, you can snooze and lose. That is, if you sleep too late in the afternoon and too long, basically. It'll decrease your drive to go to sleep early because you'll be so well rested. You want to continue until midnight. So between 2 and 4, these are the prime hours for napping. These 5 hours before you go to sleep. Now, mental rest, as you were saying earlier, is not just depending on taking a little physical nap, but also in changing your activities and so on and so forth, and having balance in your life. Little breaks. Now, it's different. If you notice, that's different than totally ceasing from work by going to sleep. Here it's got to do with variety, changing. But if you notice, in every action that I was taught this by my violin teacher many years ago, in every activity, whether it's mental or physical that you perform, in every activity there's 3 components. There's the component of, that's the main activity that you do and you're concentrating on it. And then there must be some change in variety. You can, and then finally there must be some rest. Like for example, when you brush your teeth, what's the main one? You're brushing your teeth. But then you change the place, it goes in different places. And then every so often you stop. And when you look, I'm looking at John right now, but then I look at others. And every so often, you know what my eyes do? They blink. That's the last part. And so all of these tips on mental rest have to do more with variety, but we need to have this cessation from work totally during daily, stopping to work and going to sleep. And then we'll see there's another rest that we need in which we cease completely from what we're doing usually. Okay, let's go to the spiritual aspect of rest. And there's science behind that topic. Medical research has demonstrated that the 7-day rhythm affects physiological functions. I think that we need to get some bread out of the oven. Could I have 3 volunteers to do that? But you need to have some mittens or something, otherwise it'll burn. Melissa, you wanna help Lisa get 1 loaf of bread? I think that will be enough. Hmm? So, heart rate, natural hormones, swelling after surgery, rejection of transplanted organs, all have been shown to follow a 7-day cycle. Kidney transplant patients are more likely to reject an organ 7 days or 14 days after surgery, according to the study that I'm reading. And so Dr. Baldwin, who's a medical doctor, stated that research shows that the 7-day rhythm is a normal built-in feature in physiology. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just medical science, but anthropology around the world shows that not just in the Judeo-Christian tradition, what?
I need that, correct?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm gonna put that on there. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, around the world, even in the non-Judeo-Christian traditions, there is in the language as well as in the practice of people a habit among humans to follow 6 days of work and 1 day rest. It's a 7-day cycle. Now you might think that I'm leading you because I'm the pastor of the Seventh-day Adventist Church here in town. I just mentioned the medical studies as well as anthropological studies. Matter of fact, you know that there's different people that around the planet traditionally take 1 different day of rest. And so we want to have freedom. Actually, in our church here, that's a month in which we promote religious liberty for everybody to be able to observe the day that they see as, or whatever religious observance they think is good. But regarding having 1 day which everybody would, it'd be nice too, because I remember that story of a joke by a certain Skeleton who said like this, oh, here are the tips to have a good marriage. And he has a list of them, of course it's jokes. The first one or the third one is going like this. Once a week, go out for a date. Some good food, some good drink, nice conversation. I go on Tuesday, she goes on Thursday. Well, you know, that's not gonna work too good. I press autoplay here. Well, let me see if that's gonna work, so just get out of this. So, that doesn't work anymore. And maybe that's the sign, since the bread is ready, that I need to, here it is. Okay, spiritual rest starts also, just like we talked last week. Choice was, the aspect that was presented last week was there's many choices, but choice is also an action. And so, just like you can evaluate your physical rest habits, your spiritual rest habits are also things that you need to evaluate, or can evaluate, and then make some choices of spending time for spiritual nourishment. And 1 day a week is the recommended amount. Here's a promise from the Bible. So, annual vacation, that's a great thing. I wish that more people could take it. I'm going to go quickly because the bread will be coming and I want to explain to you how I made it. So are you getting enough sleep time? Personal time? Family time? Vacation time? And time with God. Time in spiritual nourishment. Choose to make rest a priority in your life so that you can live in the fullest. Thank you. Oh, it's you see? Oh, good. Let's put that back on there.
She's casting bread.
And John, you're here. You have clean hands. Can you please butter up the top there? Kept those closed so that it's all clean. Okay. So just rub it up lightly on top. Okay.
Pastor, that's
So
real.
I was asked to make some bread as the demonstration for tonight. What do you think?
I was gonna say that's real butter, right? Not
Well, that's real
margarine?
butter and that's gluten and as but most of it is healthy. Actually, it's whole wheat. So I was asked to make bread, and I love anything that's connected with yeast and fermentation processes. I love cheese. I love bread. And it was from our timely song when I used to live in Hillsborough and Lafarge. And so our family, this little kid and my kids, would get together Saturday evening. I'd make some pizza from scratch. So that's how Lisa knew that I know how to make bread and like to make bread. I haven't made bread for a long time now, or for about 8 years. Let's go for it. Yeah, go for it. It'll just go down, you know. It'll go into the crust, and on this side, actually, it's one. You can go for it. It's not gonna harm it. But now it looks really good. Okay, thank you, John. So, I like to do this, but I haven't been able for a little while. Why? Because I didn't have an oven that worked. So my wife got the oven to work. She's the one that knows how to fix things. And so we made bread yesterday. I made lots of bread. This is all the bread that I made yesterday, after not having made for 1 year or something. And the bread here is cut up here. Thanks, Mr. Grimm. And so at the end, you can take one of them. I would suggest you put it in the oven before you eat it. 350 for a few minutes, or slice it and put it in the bread toaster. And it's whole wheat, and there is gluten. And now flour, if you go to Walmart, it's expensive. It may not be the best either. If you really want to know what the best flour is, you'll go to Mr. Green or Dr. Samuel. But I just go to the
Grind
Amish.
it by wheat berries into flour.
Well, yeah, he
That's the
grounds his
best
own.
right
It's like
ground.
fine whole wheat flour.
Where'd you get it?
At the Amish. Yeah. 25 pounds for $8.50.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
With $8.50, if you want to get yourself a whole wheat bread, you'll have 2 loaves. Here out of this, I get at least 50-75. Then, still you go to the Amish if you want to. I use molasses. I don't like molasses particularly. I prefer honey. But honey is more expensive. And to make all this bread, I use molasses. I love Melissa, but not molasses. But molasses did the job. If you don't have molasses, you don't have honey, sugar will work. Yeast from Sam's Club, what, $4? $4 for 2 bags.
What's that?
Yeast. This will last you for a year or 2 if you make everyday bread. That's a secret ingredient that I learned from Dr. Samuel. Gluten flour. This will help the thing to rise and to stay there and not drop at the end. And make it chewy and nice too. Plain salt. You don't even need to go to Morton's. Everyday essential is fine. 80 cents. Olive oil. I get mine at Sam's Club, $15 for 3 liters. If you don't have Sam's Club, you go to Walmart. Basically the same, $17. It'll last you a long time too. And if you don't want to go for olive oil, you buy some olive oil that's cheaper also. Then you need to have a bowl or 2. Something to warm your water. Couple of measuring cups. That's it. There'll be a couple of now I only had 3 of those loaf bread pan. So I used everything I had in the house. You can see there's the round one, and there's the very little one here that somebody took a little piece of before I was supposed to. Everything. Just put it in there. You feed it half, it'll rise to double, and there you're good. 350. Yes, doctor.
Did your wife or Melissa knead the bread for you?
There's a machine that does it usually, but since I didn't have anyone here, Pat did it for us, for this one. And Tom helped a little bit too. So I think that, well, there's nothing else. I think that we need to ask, would you cut it once again, or are you good at this? So is there any comments? And I think that I need to give yeah, the time needs to be given to Lee Song pretty soon. So we're gonna cut that, with this scary knife. Mm. Mm. And, what I think I'll do is I'll go to the butter, and with this, I will cut portions of butter, put one slice here, put some butter, and pass it down. Maybe John would be willing to help. Mhm. Oh, somebody bring that, that's great, thank you. Napkin? Oh, here you are. So thank you for your attention. I must tell you that I was pretty scared about talking about all these medical things regarding sleep, but one thing I know, it's very helpful to go to sleep early, to have a sleep undisturbed for an adequate amount of time. I know that. And the same way that the rest of the bread is what makes it good, to be able to live energized and without the drain of sleeplessness is a blessing. Okay, so let's go put some bread and some butter in there. You want to bless the bread? What I will do is not to talk over the bread. Give me a couple. Okay, actually I'm gonna put that on the side. Oh, and I do have some knives here. Will you be able to help? Pass this out? And then, or maybe you'd be willing to help too, no? Melissa, you wanna help?
Yeah.
Child labor. That's how you can take some rest and time. Yeah, me. I'm gonna take a new, and Lee Song, if you need to come in and do something else while we do this, it might not take long, but. Okay.
There's 3 girls and a boy. This is his third. One's in college and one's at the academy.
Well, I will take you up on your invitation there because I do want to let everybody know, again, we have little quiz time, and we do have some very healthy prizes that some of us, Pat helped me select. We went to the, I don't know if any of you shop at the health food stores, the co-ops. There's one here in town, Pine River, but we went to the Barocco one. They have a huge selection there, and so we were able to get some healthy dark chocolate. These are some of the prizes here, and we have some chewing gum that has an alternative sweetener. I don't know, aspartame is horrible for you, and also your over-the-counter gums are full of chemicals and unhealthy things. So there's a couple gums in here with xylitol, which is the really healthy version, which is a little more expensive, is derived from birch tree. I think it's a kind of alcohol or sugar alcohol. It's derived from there. They put it in your toothpaste. It's basically, I guess it's known to help with gum disease and many other, and help for diabetics. There's a cheaper version derived from corn. So if you can get the birch source, that would be better. We have some homemade soap here. Last week, Russ got some little homemade jelly. This one is quince and apple.
It was good.
Was it good?
It's all gone already.
Which one did you have? This is quince and apple. Was it?
Oh,
was
no,
yours?
that's, I think the name, look at the lower label.
What was your the flavor of yours?
I can't remember what it was now, but
It says
Oh,
quince and apple.
oh, yeah, okay.
It's called apples and cranberry,
There, that's one.
and it's
It's, the company's Quince and Apples. is
oh
what
okay.
they
So this
say.
is apples and cranberry. The company is quince and apples. So this is made by hand. Looks like it came from Madison, but we tried to get a lot of our things locally. There's Viola. There's a lady who was very sick with cancer, and she started a business with it's called Go Macro. There's what's called the macrobiotic diet. It's actually, we looked it up, and it's kind of a fad, but it's really, the principles are very healthy, and they go in line with what we've been talking about here, whole foods and plant-based diet. So that's a choice. We've got some organic maple syrup. I listened to a naturopathic doctor, married couple, and they said that maple syrup is the only sweetener out there that makes your body alkaline, which is cancer fighting. So you want to consider maple syrup. And actually, like with the bread, if you notice now, a lot of the breads out there are touting no high fructose corn syrup, which I don't know if you know, but it's high fructose is horribly bad for you. It's just, I guess, such a refined byproduct of the corn. And so our pastor here uses molasses as a sweetener.
Way better.
No, it's not. It's the high fructose corn syrup is bad, yeah.
No, it should be clear.
And then those of us who like soda pop and can't find an alternative, they do have what's called stevia, which is another sweetener
It's an
alternative. Yep, it's a leaf, and so there's some, it's called Zevia, 0-calorie soda. And we have some homemade soap, Spring Valley Soap Works. Pat got this from her friend who makes it where?
In her home, she sells it.
But I mean, where is she's close by here?
She lives in that Celsius area, yeah.
Okay, so there are some options. Actually, there's another one,
You're lucky
organic.
that Johnny is not here. He would have caught you.
Who?
Just like the accents, you know,
Well, what?
there is some options.
They're, oh, okay,
John would
apologize.
just caught you just right there.
A little nervous up here, sorry. This one's sweetened with organic cane sugar, organic blue sky soda. We have tested these, so they're pretty good. Oh, actually, one more I missed. Aromatherapy foam bath. It's patchouli sweet orange. It says peaceful. It's got jojoba. I think it's got coconut oil in here, cleansers. 100% pure botanical ingredients. So, for my new people I think we have here, I have some questions for you. Somebody raised her hand and said she spoke 3 languages.
This is for us.
Was that you? What is your name? Christine? What languages?
Well, they're different. It's English, Spanish, and I took like 4 years of Hopi Indian, and
Wow.
I'm really bad.
You're probably a lot better than the rest of us. I have no idea. Can you tell us something about health in one of those languages?
English.
Okay. You got me there. Go ahead. Okay. Something, did you say Spanish?
Spanish, but I would have a hard time. I had 14 years of Spanish, and I have not used it at all for.
You know how to say bread in
Oh,
Spanish?
pan. See,
Con? Well, there you go. So you won a prize, Christine. Here you go. Go ahead and pick your choice if you want to. Okay.
The best way to learn Spanish is to get a Spanish right.
Amen.
we studied in Spain, or in Mexico for
Wow.
2 years. So.
And Miriam. Yes, Miriam. Let's see. You remember the hormone that Dr. Garbi talked about, and it starts with an M. That is, how does that go, Karen? The more sleep you get, the more the hormone is produced?
No.
And it resets your, somebody help me.
Circadian rhythm.
What's that?
It resets your circadian rhythm.
The melatonin does?
Just give the answer.
Oh, man.
What was this?
Nothing? Okay, wait a minute. Wasn't there another hormone though that?
There was, but I don't.
Okay, let's do this. What was that circadian rhythm cycle, the number? Do you remember that number?
7.
Thank you. Yes. Who said that over there? Bob? Here.
I didn't hear it.
Take your time. And I think, Russ, you brought a friend today?
Yes.
What is her
Are
name?
there
Carol?
seconds?
Carol,
Yeah,
let's
second.
see, without, well, no, you didn't get the ingredient list. Can you just name one of the ingredients in the bread recipe today?
Molasses?
Okay, awesome. Here you go. You can grab it if you want. Look at it. Pick, here, this is, yep,
Okay.
this is soap here. Any of those you can. Yep.
You know that I don't mind.
Just as a side, that xylitol
Mhm.
will kill your pets if they eat
Oh, thank you, Christine. Isn't that the same with chocolate too, I heard?
too much chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Christine said that apparently she knows that, the xylitol, we have to be careful with pets.
It'll put them in kidney failure, and too much will literally kill them.
Okay, so let's not get the xylitol around our pets. I know I've used it for
And
cooking.
they look for it because it has a good smell to it.
Really?
What's that?
The xylitol is spelled XY, yeah. And it's derived from, the original, I guess, is derived from birch tree. But it also can come, the cheaper source is corn. And
gum? Where have I seen that term?
In a lot of,
That's
a
where
lot
you're
of
putting it
things.
more now in
It's in a
gum,
lot of them.
healthier.
It's in a lot of
It's in
things.
toothpaste also,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
did you have anything else? Okay, make sure you guys leave me a. Well, thank you very much for this, yummy bread that you made us, and I was telling Pastor earlier, because he comes from overseas, and I heard that they were saying how, they said, why are Americans, suffering from all these ailments, and they were comparing it to the Europeans. They said, oh, their diets are not, as far as, they eat a lot of bread, the carbohydrates and different things, and they said, well, as far as the bread goes, a lot of them, I guess, tend to make it more homemade, more often than we would in America, I guess. I know I wasn't raised on bread, I was raised on rice, so I really don't make a lot of bread, but there's nothing better than some good homemade bread from somebody who knows how to make it. And so they were saying because they make it homemade more often, they don't use all these nasty ingredients that you'll find in the breads in the grocery stores. Especially the high fructose corn syrup and the different preservatives and the white flour, different things like that, so if you can make it, it's better. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, did we have any more questions? And then we do have refreshments in the back, please stick around, and especially if you have questions, Dr. Garbi will be here for a little while to answer your questions. We also have Dr. Sinnott that spoke last week on choice. If you have any questions about what you missed last week, you should have gotten the granola recipe that he included. And then next week, you don't want to miss next week, Mrs. Grimm over here will be talking on environment, and it's going to be a good one. So you don't want to miss that one. And if you don't mind, then we'll just close with a word of prayer.
If they don't have it, here's the recipe.
Okay, yes, please ask if you're missing anything from it.
No,
Last week or
granola
today.
from last week.
So then if you don't mind, we'll close with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, you are so kind and merciful to us. Thank you for getting us all here safely, Lord. You have helped us exercise the first lesson, the first principle, the principle of choice, Lord. You helped us exercise that, and we came here tonight, and thank you for the abundant blessings we've received. Lord, we've learned about rest, that even the bread has to rest when it's rising, and it has to rest a little bit at the end, so we can have, we can cut it nicely and enjoy it. And so, Lord, just help us to all remember these principles and go home and just start implementing little things one by one, maybe even just one thing, Lord. And Lord, we thank you for the sacrifices that you made, Lord, that sending your Son here to atone for our sins, and that we may make good choices and come together, Lord, at your return, that we may live a life of eternity with each other in peace and happiness. And Lord, I just ask that you put a hedge of protection on all of us as we make our ways home and bring us together again safely next week. Thank you so much, Lord. We ask for all these things in the precious name of Lord Jesus. Amen.
Everybody
So-
to get up.